welcome to another episode of the Manufacturing Minute. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Miranda.
And we're here to talk a little bit about Youth Apprentice Week that's happening currently
happening this week, everybody. So this is the first time they did Youth Apprenticeship Week. Typically they do Apprenticeship Week, and that's in when? That's in
the fall?
Yeah.
The fall.
Youth Apprenticeship Week is typically in the fall, so this year they started doing that's regular apprenticeship week. Yeah, but they did Youth Apprenticeship Week this year, so it's the first time. So we're really excited about that. So we get to highlight our pre-apprenticeship program and what we do with our pre-apprenticeship at the Manufacturers Association. It's one of our favorite programs. Well, my favorite program, obviously, because I'm pre-apprenticeship coordinator. But anyway, so welcome to Youth Apprenticeship Week. So this podcast is titled Everything Pre-Apprenticeship. So I think we just kind of wanted to give you an overview of what we do with our pre-apprenticeship, how we got started. So if you guys are like whatever mode you're in with your pre-apprenticeship, whether you want to start a pre-apprenticeship, whether you're currently in one and you just you're kind of navigating your pre-apprenticeship, or like you are an industry leader of pre-apprenticeships, this is just kind of an all-around encompassing view of us and how we do our pre-apprenticeship. And ours is the Manufacturing Applied Technologies pre-apprenticeship, so we center around machinist-based or tool and die-based or just manufacturing in general. But pre-apprenticeships can range anything from agriculture to our favorite one from our executive director's underwater basket week. He constantly makes fun of that. But no, I mean, you can have a pre-apprenticeship for anything, for electrical, construction. Ours is just manufacturing based. So this is just our opinions and how we started ours and how much we love ours. So
okay,
Crystal's going to ask me some questions.
I am going to ask you some questions.
Pre-apprenticeship.
So the pre-apprenticeship, you are the coordinator is your title.
Yes.
So that means you coordinate with the schools, you coordinate with YCal, a lot of different programs. So inside of your county, outside of your county, multiple counties.
Yeah.
You don't have to name them all, but there's a lot.
There's a lot.
So you will coordinate that in a way to where the students are able to come to all of the classes. Some of the classes are taught here, some of the classes are taught at their schools or other location, but all of the machining is normally here, and the SolidWorks is normally here as well too in our computer lab. So this program is just for high school students, is that
yes.
correct?
So pre-apprenticeships in general could be anywhere from 14 to 99 plus. It's not like age based, but ours is just because of the sole purpose that we want to lead into an apprenticeship, our apprenticeship program. So our pre-apprenticeship is geared towards high school students, so juniors and seniors, and we pretty much get our kids, like you said, we're all over South Central PA. And I am one person. With the pre-apprenticeship program, we have 10 plus people here that are here to help. But being the pre-apprenticeship coordinator, I coordinate the times of the classes, I teach the classes, I get materials together, and we'll go into that a little deeper in a little bit. But I need help, and that's where intermediaries come in. So when you were talking about YCal and PCD, those are the people that actually help me go to all of the schools in the areas and the CTCs and help me find students that would be interested in the pre-apprenticeship program. But just kind of the question, I guess, being what is a pre-apprenticeship coordinator, or what do I do? Or I go around and I promote and go to like high schools and promote the program that we have. I go to career fairs. We do a lot of speaking. We do podcasts. We just go to different companies and schools and ask people, to start the pre-apprenticeship, what they needed for somebody that was an entry-level machinist. And I think that kind of leads into the next question, is how we started this entire pre-apprenticeship program.
Some of the high schools don't have a lot of the I'm just going to call it techie for all purposes, programs anymore, and we're now giving them those skills that they can take and then apply in the real world, and then also then apply to a job. So let's say they were hired by one of the companies that we sponsor for their apprentice program. They would take the hours that they earned with your state-approved program, and they could then use them towards that as kind of a jump into it.
So high schools have something called an Act 158, and I think that's Pennsylvania-wide, so that's not just York County-based. But what that is that they have to have an industry credential by the time that they graduate high school. An industry credential could be anything from OSHA certification, any kind of certification, and ours has 2 industry credentials. So the first one is the OSHA 10, so they get an OSHA 10 certified trainer to come in, and that is a lifelong card that they get, and it's an OSHA, and it's called OSHA 10 because it's 10 hours, so they get that. But then they also get what you were hinting at was the 64 registered apprenticeship hours. So as an apprenticeship, and some of you probably already know what an apprenticeship is, but you have to have RTI hours, and then you have on-the-job training hours, and it gives you 64 hours towards your RTI. So it gives you like almost half a year, because it's typically 144 hours a year. It gives you almost half a year off of your apprenticeship program, which is like a really great leg up for these kids. Yeah. And it's something that they can do in high school that gives them skills, like hands-on skills that they would not necessarily get in real life.
Right.
You can't just go, you can't just, and like you said, a lot of high schools kind of, and I like to use this word arbitrage because Mike Rowe used it, and I really love the word arbitrage. But like this stuff has been arbitrage from school, meaning that they've taken industrial arts or metal arts or whatever out of high schools. Right. 1, because it was expensive, and 2, because of lack of interest. And a lot of people don't have the money to put up getting machinery, brand new machinery, and all the programs and stuff that you need, especially in modern manufacturing with the like very expensive PLCs and 3D printing and just CNCs and how much they cost and the room that it costs. And not just that, but the teachers. I know I come from industry, and all of the teachers we use for our apprenticeship come from industry. Everybody that we work with comes from industry, so it's really hard to find and pull people from industry out of jobs that we're already hurting at to come and actually teach all day long.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that we have heard when we're talking to the coordinators as well. So some of the high schools will either use their guidance counselor, or they have like a career intermediate or development. I know some use their terms a little bit differently, and then that's how you can also kind of guide them into your programs. You would work with them as well too. So you have some people that you can connect with as well. And then you were saying that we do have some other people that help out sometimes in the shop too, for safety reasons, and just so you can give them more of a hands-on experience and have a larger group instead of just a small group and kind of pigeon it to just a couple kids. So if I have this correct, you tell me if I have it correct. So you'll promote it. You'll go to schools and talk to the schools. So kind of like a job fair. So you'll talk to the students one-on-one, sometimes via Zoom, but as many school fairs as you could possibly get to. You'll then put the information out there. They register through the certain ways, and then they will come to the classes on their scheduled time. So the one class, OSHA 10, so they're getting their safety. Then the other class is blueprint reading.
Yeah, they have a math class, which we don't call math because kids hate math. Right. So like if I were to call it math, nobody would want to take it. So it's manufacturing applied technologies. And then so what that is they use basic like hand measuring instruments. So they would use calipers and micrometers and things that they would, it's applied math. So it's not just where they come in and they like add and subtract and multiply fractions. And manufacturing is very much math based, like mathematics based, as you know. So they do need to know some math, but it is basic math. But what it is they learn, like I said, hand-on tools that they're going to use all the way from a ruler to a dial caliper down to thousandths and even half of a thousandths, because manufacturing precision is extremely important. And that's precision measurement is the name of that class. But then we also have a SolidWorks class, so we have a professional SolidWorks person come in and train the class. And it's pretty much like one of the kids' favorite classes because they get to design and build something for the first time in their life. So a lot of them like obviously conceptualize without even realizing it, and they're makers without even realizing it. And they draw things, right, 2D on a piece of paper. But when you go into SolidWorks, it's like a CAD, CAM software, a computer-aided drawing or computer-aided machining software. So what that does is they'll draw it and it'll make it into a 3D object. And it's probably the first time that they've ever made something physical in their life. And it's really cool to actually like see them like, oh my gosh, I made this thing. And it's digital. And then in the next class we have, it's called Emerging Technologies. And that's a class that we just developed. That's not something that we started with, but I'll go back and talk to on that a little bit. But emerging technologies has to do with just staying consistent with advancement in manufacturing. So it's made to evolve. It's a class that I kind of put in there to made to evolve.
And that makes sense because
yeah, it's constantly changing.
You're constantly changing, and you're not kind of do stuff they always go away, which, I mean, you need some of those ways, but moving forward, so you're not just
yeah, so it's 3D printing, and we do virtual reality. So everybody's like, why does virtual reality have to do with manufacturing? Well, if I would take anybody off the street and tell them to just run a machine, how safe do you think, or how comfortable do you think they would be with a machine, right? So we've partnered with some of the workforce development boards in the area, and they have these virtual reality headsets, and kids love video games, right? So there are these Oculus headsets that they wear, and they're in virtual reality, but they're doing these things in a safe environment, in a controlled environment where they feel like they have a little bit of control. So they're on pedestal grinders, they're actually on forklifts and learning how to drive a forklift. Sometimes they can change oil, they're fixing robots and stuff like that. They're in a robotic cell, they're wiring motors, AC, DC motors. So like, awesome. They get some hands-on experience without actually like hurting themselves, which is huge. And we take these kids all the way from not really knowing anything in manufacturing to them actually like having 2 hands-on physical projects where they're working in our machine shop. So there's the emerging technologies aspect piece. We do the mathematics, we do blueprint reading, we do OSHA 10 certification, so they do understand safety and how to be in a machine shop and in that atmosphere. And then we also have 3 shop days as well.
And that's where they're taking that project they applied through SciWorks, and then
so
they're then actually making
they make their first project out of plastic, right, on a 3D printer. So they kind of understand and conceptualize how things are made. But to actually take something in an additive atmosphere with the 3D printing, but in a subtractive atmosphere in manufacturing, that means starting with something big, like a big billet of material or something, and then taking some parts away. So you're actually like taking whatever you need to make and out of a piece of material. So they understand the process of starting with that, and we work in aluminum, and they do use regular tools like end mills and drills and that sort of thing, and they work on our vertical mills in our machine shop, and we have 9 vertical mills and in the machine shop, and it is the first time that they ever get to run those machines, and they're Bridgeport type machines. So they do everything a CNC does except that you are the motor, right? And I tell them that. So going back to, you need to learn hands-on, like the old way of doing things. That's kind of where we kind of show them, like, this might be the old way of doing things. It's not CNC, but you need to understand that all of it before you get into the advanced CNC. And the CNC is something that they would learn as an apprentice, or wherever they go to a job, because believe it or not, people still use Bridgeport machines. Every machine, you can attest to this, every machine shop we go to, they have Bridgeport type machines. And all of these skills that they're learning is something, when this whole program was developed, when we started the pre-apprenticeship here, it was started way before I came. And you can talk about this a little bit, but it was started by a gentleman named Carl Winters Jr. And he was a tool and die apprentice himself. And from what I gathered is he loved his community. He was a very big people person, very loving, caring human being. And he started this program because he loved his community. He, like we all do, we love the manufacturing community and maker space. And he just kind of went to our members and asked them, it was literally a survey. What would you need from somebody that would be a machine operator, an entry-level machine operator position? And he had the foresight to like get this program started, before the whole crisis with the jobs is happening. Yeah,
everyone, that was their number one thing, was how do we get kids engaged, or we're having the age gap crisis, or the retirement crisis, as they were saying, where people who have been in the industry for a long time, or now there's a huge retirement and there's no one kind of moving into those roles. And so how can we as an association, then help our members have the youth kind of be interested in it and not be like, no, I don't want to do that, because they really don't know. And I've been in some of your classes, and some of the questions we've asked were, do you name a couple manufacturers, or do you know? And it is just wild to watch them be excited when they find out what is around them or what is being made. They just really don't know that Pennsylvania is such a hub for manufacturing, and so many products are made here, and so many things that they need in their everyday life are just right down the street. So that like acknowledgement, and they're just like, oh my gosh, wow.
That's like really one of the things that like I really love about my job is just seeing their faces seeing their faces when they make something for the first time, and like having that confidence in themselves to actually like, I can do this. Because you can't go out to a high school, and I'll speak on this a little bit, like you can't go out to a high school and just handpick these kids out of a class and say, hey, you would be great for manufacturing, or how do I get kids interested in a pre-apprenticeship? And I know a lot of people are like, what is a pre-apprenticeship? Pre-apprenticeship is so new. It's such a new buzzword. And we've been in that space because we started our pre-apprenticeship, but like not a lot of people have started a pre-apprenticeship. How do you get kids, right, interested in your pre-apprenticeship program? And simply for us, they don't realize that they like it until you show them that they like it. And I will literally go to schools and sit at a career fair and put out my 3D printed stuff, and I have a fake Hershey bar that looks exactly like our Hershey bars, over a life-size Hershey bar, and I'll have a kid come up here and pick it up and like, oh my gosh, you made this? And I'm like, yeah, like I 3D printed this and did this stuff, and they're like, that's really cool, how do I do that? Like, and
just kind of piquing their interest in different ways that they wouldn't know. And I know you said doing that, you also do job interviews sometimes too. You do the mock interviews, so when you're talking to them, you can kind of see the skills that someone would have that they wouldn't think that they would generally like apply to manufacturing, or what the other types of different jobs. I think kids just have such a like maybe a one-sided, and even adults we don't know. We just kind of see what we think that we know and don't know all the awesome possibilities.
Well, kids are so bucketed, and what I mean by bucketed is like when they're in school, they're kind of given options. Like here's your option, but we're gonna push you towards your option. And a lot of that is engineering or automotive or healthcare or finance or something like that. And manufacturing is not inside of that. So I do get a lot of kids in my program that are interested in the engineering aspect. And I'll tell you just from personal experience, I worked in that atmosphere, and being a machinist or learning how to make things hands-on is going to make you a so much better engineer. But just having a mechanical mindset. And I literally will walk up to a kid and be like, hey, when I was a kid, my parents used to yell at me because I would take things apart and try to put it back together. And I just had a really curious mind. I wanted to be hands-on. I knew I couldn't sit at an office desk job. So when I go out to the high schools, or I'm, talking to these kids one-on-one, how did I get to be a machinist? How did I get to where I'm at? It was just because I had an interest. Honestly, it just takes a little bit of, you can be taught skill, right? You can be taught how to do things. Like when you're born, you don't know how to cook. You don't know how to neatly do anything. You're taught how to do these things. And I want people to understand, and kids to understand, that if you show up and you show up on time and you have a mindset, a good mindset, a good attitude, a willingness to learn, you could get a job doing anything, anywhere. And that's pretty much in manufacturing too. That's all that they want from you. But I do really see kids excel that want to go into the automotive or just even 3D printing or just making and any sort of making space where they know that they could just use their hands and their
even
skills.
Ones that are really truly interested or video games. So I've walked into some of the SolidWorks classes, and I've seen some of the stuff that they're creating, and it blows your mind. And you'll just kind of talk to them a little bit, and they're interested in even music, some of the ones where they're just trying to figure out. But the video games, I think, has been a really big eye-opener for students to say, this is something that I really enjoy. this is also something that I really do. This is how I'm applying this, or I can see how this is kind of almost the same skill, or can kind of move me in that direction.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's part of my job. Like, so my responsibilities aren't just teacher, trainer. Like, I feel like mom sometimes.
I
feel like mom, influencer. I feel like a nurse sometimes. But like another part of my job is to just see where these kids would fit in, and see where they excel or what their skills are, and see, you know, like kind of push them toward outside of their box a little bit, and kind of give them a view of like, hey, when I was your age, I didn't know what I wanted to do in school either. Like, I'm not telling you have to decide. And with the pre-apprenticeship, if they don't like it and they try it, at least they tried it.
Right.
At least they put some effort and time into this. But as another part of my job is to help them get jobs afterwards. So working with companies, like we do with the Manufacturers Association, we have over 500 now that are part of our apprenticeship, and we're super proud of that and happy to have that many people part of it and growing constantly. It's amazing. These kids have so many opportunities now. We expose them to the manufacturers as well. They come in and they talk to the kids on their lunchtime. They have half-hour time slots where they can come and present their companies and some of the opportunities that they have for the kids at their company. And it's really great exposure, not just for the company, but for the kid, again, as an eye-opener of like, oh my gosh, Harley-Davidson, I can do this at Harley-Davidson as an entry-level job. And it's also part of my job to place them in any kind of work-based learning experiences.
There are some companies that will allow the high school students to work with them into some capacity, so they can actually start now during their high school years and be able to, you know, have an introduction to that career and possibly continue to work for them as well. And the company, when the company comes in, they kind of talk to your students about what their job, what's the correct term? Job placement? Job
work-based learning.
Work-based learning, okay, work-based learning. I just want to call it like high school. It was called something different a million years ago when I went to school.
It's called all kinds of things. It's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing. So they're able to talk to them about that, and they're able to talk to them about things that they could do as they went along. So, you know, things that kids wouldn't think about that us as parents would. Like,
and you're like, okay, well, they're under 18. How can they work in manufacturing companies? So it's a little bit different. There is some red tape there, but if they're in this kind of program, because they do get the OSHA 10, the safety aspect of it, they're in a learning environment. So it's not like they would just be hired off the street as a 16-year-old to come and do something extremely dangerous. No, they're in a learning environment, so they can, under a certain age. It all depends on the company, but a lot of companies will take our kids under 18 into a work-based learning experience, even a part-time or a full-time job over the summer, just because they can inside of a program like this. And a lot of people don't know that as well.
Yeah, it's been great, and we've stopped by a couple of the companies and been there when some of the students have been working, or students that they may not have come to your program but actually just went directly to there and are working, and now they're starting into our apprentice program as an adult. And it is really cool to see them working and see how excited they are, and really just, it's an all-around great thing for the company, and it's an all-around great thing for the students. So I'm glad that I've been able to go with you on a couple tours and meet people that have already started in the high school environment. So that's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, these kids, the kids are, you know, you kind of have to push them a little bit. And me being a teacher, I am not by any means, I have all the credentials to be a teacher, but I am not a trained teacher. And when you have a pre-apprenticeship or some kind of job like this, and a lot of pre-apprenticeship coordinators will, you know, commiserate with me on this. I came from industry, so I'm a 15-year journeyman machinist myself, and the knowledge that I bring in is the knowledge that I gained over those 15 years, and I kind of distribute it to these kids. But I am not a trained teacher whatsoever.
Right, so you didn't go to college.
I didn't go to college to be a
college
teacher.
Degree, like that type of thing.
But that's very common.
Right.
But when you're a pre-apprenticeship coordinator, you are the teacher, you're the trainer, you're the guidance counselor, you're everything. You're the lunch lady.
Yeah, you're really you're supporting them in every way possible.
Right.
You're really giving them that all-around exposure and comfort level, and you're just influencing them to be able to learn things see if it's something they enjoy. And I have been around it a couple times as well too, when you're talking to them, and I'll hear students say, well, I'm not smart enough for that, or I don't like math, or I don't know, isn't that for kids for people who don't know anything? Like, there's this weird stigmatism about it. And there are so many types of jobs. And yes, some of them you have to specifically have certain, like a skill that you were really into, but it's nothing that no one can learn. Like,
it's really funny
can learn this.
that you say that, because we have a poster that's hanging in our hallway. If you ever come here to the Manufacturers Association, we do tours and stuff. But if you ever see a poster that says, "Are you smart enough to get into manufacturing?" Because there is such a stigma, kind of like you said. And back in the day, it was called slow tech back in the day. And it was like manufacturing has this huge dark cloud around it, saying that it's such a dirty, dark, extremely unsafe work environment. And I'm not gonna lie, there are still places out there like that. Like, if you work in a foundry, expect to be dirty by the end of the day when you come home. But like most of the companies that we go into, and you can attest to this, they are clean, they're air conditioned. Some of the highest paying jobs are in manufacturing right now. Starting salaries for students out of high school, $21 and above is an amazing starting salary. When I started in manufacturing, I got less than like $12 an hour.
That was the number one thing.
Yeah.
When I came to start working here several years ago, that was the biggest thing. Talking to people and trying to explain to them kind of like what we do and how to get people interested. And when I'm just talking in general, the first thing that always pops into my mind is talking to students in the program and having them say to me, I just bought a new car. I just bought my first house. I just bought my second house. We just did this. We just did that. Or I paid all my debt. Just so excited. You kind of feel like a mom because you're like, that's so awesome. But just driving past here sometimes in the evening and looking at the cars that are driving, not that I'm saying you should be money hungry. I hope this isn't coming right.
That's not what we're trying to say.
Really get what it's an amazing opportunity, and for people to start a life immediately and be able to have an immediate reward for themselves, that they can do these things. And talking to them, and the ages are such a variety. Like, you could be right out of high school all the way up to, there is no age limit. But having someone as young as my children say, I just bought my first house and I'm 21, that is just such a great thing for me to hear.
And it's really great to kind of, I love the whole equity aspect of it, and having it be open to everybody. And I know when I was in high school, I didn't have a lot of money for education. I didn't have, unfortunately, we weren't rich people, so I didn't have a lot of access, or when I was in high school thought that I could go to college. And this is a really great opportunity, going back to the money, for maybe people that are underserved, or in underserved communities, or people that don't think that they can pay for college because you don't have to. And I know that they still kind of push that in high schools, about four-year colleges, but that's starting to change. It's really great for people to have a starting wage out of high school, not to be in college debt. You still get papers, you're still recognized by the state of Pennsylvania that, you are a papered machinist, or, tool and die maker, or automation technician, or, you shouldn't feel less. And manufacturing nowadays, you can make some really good money starting off, and you don't have that student debt. And I wish I would have known about this. There wasn't programs like this, so I'm not going to age myself. We're not going to age ourselves. But there wasn't programs like this when I was in high school, and I wish there really was, because I could have started my career probably a decade sooner. And I would have saved myself a lot of heartache there.
But that's what's great about apprenticeship, is that you can start a career like this at any age.
Time.
And the companies are here to support you. We're here to support you. And we probably talk about a bunch of other things.
We kind of got off track, but
this could go on forever and a day. But for Youth Apprenticeship Week, what would be, let's just play around. What would be 5 words that you would say explains, or a feeling that you would get from being in a pre-apprenticeship program?
So, accomplishment, first of all, would be one.
Okay.
Satisfaction.
Okay.
I would say, oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
I know,
here.
it's hard because you think about it all the time.
Being
but
in
then
a
trying to think.
I know. So like I'm in the pre-apprenticeship, and I'm gonna say like collaboration is
I
our
was thinking
big
like community
one.
would be a good one.
Community,
It's kind of like a community thing.
our ecosystem. We have partnerships. Those sorts of words. I feel like I've gotten over 5 now, but
Emerging,
like
ever changing.
yeah,
There's so many things. Yeah.
So when you're part of the pre-apprenticeship, like there's a whole community behind you. With our pre-apprenticeship, like I said, to even start this, we had our members, our whole membership community started this. And manufacturing community, believe it or not, everybody knows everybody. We really do, because we all stay within our own network of people. And there is a huge network of people. But we're all here to support you, and our hope with the pre-apprenticeship is to get them into apprenticeship programs. That is my number one hope and goal, is to get these kids and these students into a really lucrative career, and a career, not just a job, but where they're comfortable and they're happy and they're set for the rest of their lives. And I think one of the most biggest gratification, there's another one for me, is seeing them come back a couple years later and tell me, like, oh my gosh, Miss Miranda, like, I got into this job and I love it, and I'm starting a family, and that's happened to me a couple times, and like, I mean, I don't want to talk about it. I just had graduation.
I was cried.
I know. I just had graduation this past Monday, and like, if we can throw up pictures somewhere, I will, but like, I graduated over 70 students, and that was just this year. But I have more students to come. But like, I've been doing this for the past couple years, and every graduation, it's like I'm letting go of my kids.
You were my first girl graduate, so
yeah. So I was.
It's a little teary-eyed.
Yeah. So they kind of stole me for a minute. No, I'm not kidding. I'm kidding. They didn't steal me.
We're gonna edit that one out.
But they, yeah. So I'm their first female graduate, and I came back from the program, and I think it's very obvious that I really care about it. And they I exuded that enough that they thought, hey, maybe we should have her come back and teach the kids. So that's what I did, and I came back from industry to teach the kids, and it's really like a passion of mine that obviously I don't want to die, literally and figuratively. I don't want that the old way of things being done to go away, and I want to preserve that, and this is like my gift, and I'm hoping, like my legacy is with these kids, and but like I have graduated, gosh, how many kids? I would say close to 200 kids since I started. So I started December 1st of 2021. Almost 3 years of the pre-apprenticeship I've been doing this, but we've had the pre-apprenticeship since 2018, I think. And we started with what, like 16 kids?
I don't know, it was kind of part of it, kind of not. It was small, because I think they were just focusing on one school at one time, or just immediately just a couple of local
Right,
schools.
we started with just
Sure.
York. We just started with York. And we had about 5 or 6 graduates the first year, but we started with like 16 kids. And now York is just one of our cohorts. And what I mean by cohorts, a group. Since we are all over South Central PA, and I travel, and like I said, I'm the only one, but I'll go over like how our program is set up and what our program looks like, structure-wise. But we have York, and we have Lancaster and Perry, but like I travel to these different areas and bring my kits, literally my kits. It's like a toolbox of stuff to these kids, and my books and my snacks, and if I didn't have snacks, they'd kill me. But anyway, yeah, it's funny. But anyway, so I bring all these toolkits all over South Central PA, and I'm hoping in the future that I could have like my own little fleet of pre-apprenticeship coordinators all over South Central PA, which would be really, really cool. But that's like something way in the future. But I hope that,
because that would be great to have some of our like graduate students, or even come back and kind of be a little bit of a mentor, or maybe help teach a class, or even if they can kind of pay it forward, and just kind of influence them and give the current students an idea of what kind of how they went through it, or what helped them get through it, or what they did, and just, you know, kind of influence. I'm just gonna keep saying the same word, I guess that's my word for the day, influence.
So the pre-apprenticeship, just to kind of give you an outline of what ours is, it's pre-apprenticeships are very fluid. So if you're thinking about starting one, it's pretty much whatever you think or what you want is what you'll get. And if you go onto the Department of Labor Industry website, there is a place where you can sign up to do a pre-apprenticeship program, and there's just paperwork that you fill out. There's a really great team. It's headed by Danielle Demirovich.
Okay.
She is the program pre-apprenticeship coordinator for the Department of Labor Industry, but there are some really great people that they just hired underneath of her. But if you would like to start, that's the first place that you want to go. But our pre-apprenticeship starts in October and goes all the way through April. And with all those cohorts, I meet them once every 3 weeks or so with each individual class, and I have about 9 classes that I teach within that time. And then we also have a kickoff celebration and a graduation. So the kickoff celebration is just kind of like, again, kids don't know what manufacturing is. So I love to start off with a tour. So we go to a tour of a local manufacturer, whatever one of their local manufacturers is, it rotates. But in New York, just example, in New York, we go to the Harley Davidson and we walk them through, and they're like, oh my gosh, their eyes open up and they see the robots and like the people that are working there. And we have a panel, we get a career panel of some of the awesome people that work there and tell them about their jobs. And how they got to their jobs, because again, people have such interesting stories, and that's something that we highlight. If you hear about the Manufacturing Minute, that's something that we're going to highlight on our podcast with the Manufacturers Association. But they do that, and they have lunch, and it humanizes the whole manufacturing aspect of it. And then again, they graduate in April. And we had it at Penn State York this year, but we had it at Thaddeus Stevens in the past, the York Agricultural and Industrial Museum. So we kind of, again, just keep it in manufacturing. And we support them if they want to go into a 4-year college. We articulate with colleges as well. So we do articulate with Thaddeus and Hack. So if they want to take those hours, they articulate too, if they want to go into engineering or something like that as well. We also articulate with high schools and CTCs. So they're doing what we do 1,000 times as far as hours go. So we just kind of give them our hours as well. And we say, hey, if they're teaching the same thing we are, why can't we give them these apprenticeship hours? So, I mean, we have more than 100 graduates a year if we talk about our articulation students as well. So, you know, we have such a wide breadth and outreach. But our pre-apprenticeship program just keeps evolving and it keeps growing. And obviously there are some growing pains that come along with that, and there are some struggles. But you know, they're nothing that we can
That's with everything.
get over. They're with everything.
So companies can be involved in a couple different ways. So the ways that I've seen them be involved is obviously they can donate equipment. We love that. Donate equipment. You can donate supplies. You can donate lunches. You can come and do a lunch and learn, where you were saying earlier that they would come during the lunchtime, talk about their company, give a good overview. Videos are always great when you're kind of showing if they currently have an apprentice or someone that's kind of industry. So if like an HR person comes, you want to, they're great, but it's always better to have someone who's actually doing some of the jobs to kind of come in and explain to a little bit to the students too, because you always, if a student has a question and it's more technical, it's great to have someone to be able to answer that. And you're always great with that too. But when I've seen those seem to be like the best ones to do that. They are swag, obviously, giving them shirts and things like that. Everyone loves that, which is also free marketing for your company. So that's great. They can also always donate to us as well too. They can donate to anything in the program.
Why that's so important, and I don't mean to stop you, but like donations are so important, and the companies that donate their machines to us, it's just kind of like, if you want a kid to be exposed to the machinery that you use, donate your old machinery. And I know that companies, that's the easiest way to get them integrated into what you do. And I know that we have PLCs that have been donated and stuff like that, but that's, if you want them to know what you do inside of your company, donate your old equipment. Why not?
And your time too. If they ever want to help teach part of the class, I'm sure you'd be, grateful if they thought this would be something that we could really help out and teach with. And again, it gives them, and so that's kind of like what the STEM programs do too, and some of the other programs where they, the companies come in and do that as well too. So they can do that, they can donate to that, they can be a part of the graduation, they can sponsor that and come and have, a table, a booth, or anything, and speak to the students and kind of give them more of an experience of how they could then come and work for them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that would possibly be helpful? Obviously sharing anything, obviously social media sharing.
Tours are
a great one, right? So that you can give them like a hands-on experience.
Yeah, so if you would think, so my cohorts are typically, I don't take more than 30 kids at a time, because it's very hard for me to wrangle 30 kids or to machine shop at once. But if you're willing to open up your doors and literally let the kids come in, we're very safe, right? But let them come in and see what you do and how you make things, and literally they will open up and start asking questions. And the companies that we have gone to, these kids want to go back. Like every time we leave there, they're like, that was so great. Like I never knew that existed, or that was a thing, or how that was made, or whatever. And so if you're a manufacturer and you want to know how you can get more involved with these kids, you obviously reach out to me or to Crystal or anybody at the Manufacturers Association. But definitely donating your time, donating your equipment, maybe donating a lunch to the kids, because we do pay for their lunches.
They're very food motivated, which is
very food. Obviously, you all have kids and you're all parents and you understand, but they're very food motivated. But the pre-apprenticeship, kind of going on to the next question, is like, how do we pay or how do we fund the pre-apprenticeship? And we are a nonprofit. So we do work off of grants. And grants, one thing about them is they aren't guaranteed. So we've worked off of the School to Work grant for quite a long time, and that's before I even came. That's how I actually got a job here, was through the School to Work grant. So we are funded off of donations. We have something called the Employers Education Foundation. We do have that, and we do the Give Local for York every year for that. But we are open to donations, and that goes straight to the kids. Literally, that goes straight to the kids. It doesn't go to my salary. That goes to the equipment for the kids. That goes to food for the kids. It goes to material for the kids so that they can.
Because it's not the school. So none of the funding actually currently comes from any of the high schools or the districts or anything.
No.
It's directly funneled through something else and then through us. So that's something that I don't think a lot of people were aware. I think that they thought that all of the high schools were paying for this, that this was part of their, I'm just going to say like tax dollars, like what's being funded to your school is then being helped out to build these things.
Yeah,
and
this program
true.
is 100% free to the kids.
Correct.
Which makes it another great thing, as 100% free to the kids, so we don't actually make them pay for it. But that also causes, obviously, it costs money. I travel, I go all over South Central PA, so it's my time and travel and equipment and materials and food, and so we do work off of donations, and we work off of grants. So if you are thinking about starting a pre-apprenticeship, that's something that you need to think about as well. So and it does take a while to process a grant as well. It's not like you just submit a grant and they tell you the next day that you get it or you don't get it.
It's based on funding throughout the year. There's
And
no regulations.
Right.
I mean, there's regulations, but there's no.
Right.
They try to keep to their timelines, but it is government, so it's kind of how that happens.
And it's not guaranteed either.
It's not guaranteed.
So make sure that if you're doing an apprenticeship program or pre-apprenticeship program, that you think about where the funding is going to come from, and and if you do have to, have students or families pay for the program, make it as economical as possible. We're trying to make it as easy for people to get into the program and make it fun and everything, but unfortunately there is a little bit of a cost to that. But
I do think the tours a lot of the companies will say, we get inundated by schools want us to come here, schools want that, we're having such a hard time kind of planning that out and getting at things. So I think there's, like, YCal's pretty good at trying to kind of funnel that through for each of their different types of programs. And we've talked to companies too and said, yes, you want to do that, but the easiest way to get involved or get to a large group of children is to come through your program, because then you can set up the tours and you can have them not have to go to as many high school, things, and it's helpful for you. And you then understand what companies are looking for too.
Yeah,
so that's like an easier way.
Individual, like YCal is great. So if you're not familiar, YCal is York County Economic Alliance for Learning. And what they do is they're an intermediary group, so they help us go to all of the different school districts. Like, again, I'm one person, but they go around to all the school districts and they help with educational programs. Mm-hmm. They're really great. So if you have any sort of intermediary group in your area, collaboration and working with people and using your community and your resources is extremely important.
And they do all types of careers. It's just
all kinds of careers,
lawyers,
right? So, like, I'm sure
everything.
that there's something like that in your area, and we also have PCD, which is Partnership for Career Development, and that's in the Capital Region in the Harrisburg area. They do the school districts up in that area. They help us, but if you do, please find somebody like that to help you out with your resources if you need help with that. But yeah.
Really great.
Yeah.
I just always say YCAP because that's who we see as much, and I forget that they're not in every district, so they're called something a little bit different in every district. So if you want real names and terms, you probably want to ask Amanda at this point. Because I'll just keep directing you to the real names.
But there's also, like, a whole online community as well. Mm-hmm. So, like, there is a consortium, and we have OACs, so Occupational Advisory Committees, is that's a short term for Occupational Advisory Committee, for pre-apprenticeships. And we meet once a month, and we kind of go over, like, if you have any problems, if you have any questions, especially reporting. Reporting is another thing that I do as a pre-apprenticeship coordinator, is making sure that I keep track of all their time and their hours and their attendance and stuff like that. That's with the state. That's a state compliance so that you can keep your pre-apprenticeship program. But, as far as a community goes, like, there is community, and if you have questions or need something answered, there's always somebody there to answer your questions. So they're really great about that.
One thing that I was thinking of clarifying would be when they're saying, so a pre-apprentice program is also, it's state approved. Mm-hmm. So just to clarify how that is that it's kind of the same process as we would do for an apprenticeship, is that we work through the state because we're a state sponsor, so it's easier for us to kind of do large cohorts like you're doing. You put together the program of what the hours are, how it's going to be taught, what the information is. It's very detailed. It's a process. You're just not going in and saying, we would like to teach children this. Thanks. Can you sign off on that? Great.
Let's go online and find the curriculum. Right. That's not what happened.
No, it's not. And they'll work with you to kind of help you get the right template going, kind of what you're missing, and if there's safety and things like that. You mentioned the person that how that directs to, but it's not just I would like to teach this. I know we joke around and we say that. It's a process. And it's sometimes, I think it takes, I'm not going to scare anybody. Sometimes a year to get things through. You can just cut that out. I don't want to scare anybody.
It's honest. It's honest.
Right, and that's why us as sponsorships, it's easier for the companies to just, this is what I want, so I'm just going to come through the sponsorship here at the Manufacturers Association rather than trying to build my own program. Not that we would say you don't not do it if that's what you would like to do, but it is an easier process, and we have a really great relationship with the state, so we're almost kind of like their liaison to make it kind of work. So you start off that process, you decide what you're going to do, you get all the paperwork together, you meet with them, you go over it, you get it approved, and then it's state registered. So this is something that's legitimately recognized from the state. So like a high school diploma, like a college degree, that's what these state certifications are. And I don't think people were very clear or kind of understood that's, this is what this is. It's not like, manufacturers just created this and they're just giving us a little piece of paper. Yes, we do recognize you, and we also like to give you certificates too, but this is legitimate. This is not just, I decided to do
this. This is a lifelong credential. Mm-hmm. So, like, even if you were to go to a different state, it follows you. Mm-hmm. Just like the OSHA 10 card, once you do it, it's forever.
Right.
Excuse me. But like you get this 64 hours, and I tell the kids, make sure you put this on your resume. It's such a great resume builder. Yeah, so it is, like you said, it is state registered, it's recognized. The 64 hours go with them for the rest of their life. Whether they choose to go into an apprenticeship or not, they're always there and they can always access that. So the future of the pre-apprenticeship is something that I would love to kind of like elaborate on. So we kind of went over. Yeah, sorry.
I mean, we are in a manufacturing.
We
building,
are.
So there's going to be noises, and currently.
Yeah.
There's
So if you hear stuff
on.
in the background, I apologize. But we did kind of go over what a pre-apprenticeship is, what your responsibilities are. If you want to start a pre-apprenticeship, where do you start? Where do you get your funding? The great things about a pre-apprenticeship, some of the pitfalls of a pre-apprenticeship, and believe me, the only complaints that I get are, oh my gosh, you better love pizza, because we get a pizza all the time.
Pizza
Believe it or
kids.
not.
Well, and also I think some of the pitfalls are too that this program has really flourished, and
Yes.
it
Grown really quickly.
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's only so many days.
And there's
in a
only
year.
one
There's,
pre-apprenticeship
so many-
coordinator.
And then if there's a snow day or a makeup day or something
Yes.
like that, those are kind of the struggles which
Mhm.
any teacher would have in general.
Yeah.
But trying to, you plan it out so far in advance so that the schools are aware of it, the students are aware of it, the parents get an opportunity to kind of see what's happening and kind of, move their students toward that direction. So those are big pitfalls that you
Yeah.
have that are sometimes
And
uncontrollable,
so,
but you try to
some
make
of
them
the
work.
other ones are, and I hate to say it, are the parents, and it's because they are the ones driving their kids to either do it or not do it.
Mhm.
And some of their parents don't understand like the benefit of being in a program like this.
Mhm.
And again, there's that age old like manufacturing is horrible. I don't want my kid to get into manufacturing. Well, they don't really know about it either. So part of my job is also educating the parents
Mhm.
and kind of like giving them solace and like having them understand like it's okay.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great
This is
thing.
a great thing.
Yeah.
Like they're
To see the parents at the graduation were just elated.
It
and
was
so
awesome.
excited. It was fantastic.
I almost
to see-
cried.
What is wrong with us? We're very emotional here.
I'm very
about
emotional
people.
because I really
We're just
care about
proud.
my kids.
We're very
Yeah,
proud. I think I just smacked this. Look at everybody. I'm talking with my hands. I'm a mom. I can't
I'm
help
just
it.
very
I'm really
proud.
excited.
We are very proud, and it's really great. So what we're talking about was I get all of the kids up behind the podium to take a group picture, and all of a sudden when I'm like, hey everybody, congratulations class of 2024, I look around and all these parents are standing there with their
It's
cameras
fantastic.
out, just in a group, a mob of parents, just really proud of their kids, and it was just like, it was a really heartwarming moment for me.
It really is because that they're going home and they're talking about it.
Yeah.
They're proud of it. They're interested in it. They're showing pictures of what they're doing, and just see that many parents there. Because sometimes, as a parent, you're like, oh, okay, you just did something at school, that's okay, or you're not really sure, and you're like, oh, okay, you don't want me to go? I don't need to go to this, but just the amount of parents,
Yeah.
just from all over Pennsylvania, from all of your cohorts that were there, it was great. Some people drove really far away for
Yes.
this. And just kind of see that and to see them just so proud of their students and to just be excited and talk to that. So that is something that you offer as well too. If a parent is not sure and maybe they were talking to the school but they didn't get enough information about the program, you offer, you do try to talk to them as much or got to give out your information so that they can connect with you too.
Yeah.
So if they have any
I'm always
questions.
available. And I even tell the kids that even after you graduate, I'm here for you.
Mhm.
It's again, mom, but I would love to start an alumni association and talking a little bit about the future of the pre-apprenticeship, so that I can have a pool of students that I can have come back and again pay it forward or just see where you guys are, because if some of you are watching this, hi, how are you? Miss you. But anyway, so I would love to have an alumni association. I would love to be able to reach out to the parents a little bit more, kind of educate them a little bit about why this is so important for their kids, or just to be a little bit more involved with your kids in the pre-apprenticeship program. It's kind of a funny story. I have a little funny story that one of our coworkers, she worked at Wolfgang, and Wolfgang is one of our members, came up to me and she said, hey, I have a parent friend that has a son that wants to get into welding. And I was like, oh, okay, this is great. Like, okay, what does he want to do? What kind of welding? Where would he like to weld? And she's like, well, he's not sure. Can I get him to talk to you about it? Or can I talk to the parent? I was like, sure, give him my information. So she talks to the parent, and the parent messages me, and it's the mom of one of my pre-apprenticeship students.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like, I was like, I'm already helping your son. Why isn't he saying something to you? So like, there's like a little bit of a disconnect with parents, so I would love to like talk to the parents a little bit more, because kids aren't always the great at relaying information to their parents. So with the future of the pre-apprenticeship, I would love to have that alumni association where I could reach out to the students, know where they're going. They would love to, be part of a group and come to our events and be a little bit more involved with the Manufacturers Association, and possibly even teach at some point, because we're always looking for trainers and teachers. And then reach out to the parents and have some kind of parent packet. And that's extremely important. If you're starting a pre-apprenticeship and you're working with students, make sure that you involve the parents as much as possible. I want to constantly grow the pre-apprenticeship. I would love to have a fleet of pre-apprenticeship coordinators. Just that little me's running around. Just again, I'm only one person, and there's so many kids that aren't getting into CTCs anymore because they're so full that we have the overflow comes into our program, and then there's students that don't have programs that are looking, and these schools are searching to fill these Act 158's requirements. So they're looking for programs like this all around, not just in manufacturing, but all around. These are extremely important. Pre-apprenticeships are really important. They're brand new. They're probably something that has been done before, but not really brought to light. Or I know that we did it before there was a lot of regulation, and now they're extremely regulated, and they're organized, and they're being recognized by the state as being extremely important. If you're thinking about starting one, please start one. And if you don't know how to start one, reach out to a community member, reach out to me. There's tons of pre-apprenticeships even around us. And like I said, we have an OAC, so we get together once a year and kind of talk about everything and anything. And we're always here to help anyone who wants to start.
So if anyone has questions, I'm sure you're going to post this. You might post it in different snippets, or it might just be one giant video. So if you made it to the whole video.
Yeah, congratulations. Thanks for staying.
It's very wordy. It's a lot of information. There's so much more. We could go on and on and on and talk about it forever. It's great. I love nerding out. I know I don't know if that's a good word or not anymore, but I love it.
Nerding out is not a bad word anymore.
I'm truly interested in everything that we do here in the association, how you're teaching, and what everyone else is doing as well too. But they can reach out to you, so they can ask questions via social media. The LinkedIn, they can go to your personal LinkedIn, they can go to the association's LinkedIn, they can email our generic thing, they can reach directly out to you, which is nmarts@mascpa.org.
Yep, that's my email.
So if anybody has any questions, comments, things that they would like to engage with you a little bit more, that is their way to find it.
And also, if you want to know about apprenticeships, we have the training coordinator here. It's training at mascpa.org. So we also do apprenticeships and all kinds of things at the Manufacturers Association. So whole nother segment. But
we could go on and on.
Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in, and happy Youth Apprenticeship Week, everyone.
Yay!